Hey guys and gals, it's time for another alignment break. I'm Nova Whiteman, and today's alignment break topic was a topic that was brought up in one of the groups that I run, and I thought it was super, super timely because I happen to be experiencing it myself. And that is the topic of a vulnerability hangover. I don't know if that's a phrase that I made up or that I've just heard it somewhere, but we all know what that means, right? It's when you put yourself out there in some way, shape, or form that was really uncomfortable. It was a stretch for you. It may have felt really good and right to do at the time, but then the aftermath, you come crashing down from it when you realize what you've done, and you just feel really freaking vulnerable. There's a lot of different contexts and scenarios where this happens. Some of them that come to mind are, when you speak your truth on a sensitive matter, perhaps, or around people that you typically would not speak up on. I mean, in today's age and climate, happens a lot. Maybe you're speaking up on your views having to do with COVID or social justice or politics or any of those kind of big things that are in our face right now. And that's scary, especially when you're doing it around people that you know damn well don't share your views, right? A vulnerability hangover can happen after post something on social media in the same vein, on a sensitive matter, or even just on a personal matter, something that allows people to see you, to see more of you, and you step out of your comfort zone or your current, place of safely hiding behind the internet and just observing what other people write or post. It can happen when you express your feelings for someone. Have you ever had that happen? I'm sure you have. Everyone has at some point in their lives. And I mean, it could happen in a romantic nature or intimate nature when you just finally can't stand it anymore and you tell somebody how you feel, or you put yourself out there in some way. Maybe you ask someone out, or when anybody proposes to anybody, or you just really share and express how you are authentically feeling, for better or for worse. I mean, bam, you're being vulnerable in that moment, and you have no idea how they're going to respond to you. You're taking a risk in some way, shape, or form. And another common way that creates a vulnerability hangover, and this is the one that I'm experiencing right now. And every time I create one of these videos for you guys, or creating any of the conscious content that I put out there, even though I hope, and at least I think sometimes I come across as if it's no big deal, and sometimes it isn't. Again, in the moment, it isn't, more often than not. But a lot of times, depending on what it is I'm putting out there, there is a vulnerability crash, a hangover afterwards. So, in other words, self-promotion of any kind, even when you're doing work that is coming from a place of just truly, truly wanting to help others, because you are the vessel, you are the person who's putting it out there and allowing the world, or however many people, to observe that, to witness that, to take it in, to receive what you have to give. Oh boy, yeah, that invites a very potent vulnerability hangover and crash after the fact. In fact, I just experienced that last week when I announced the release of my audiobook and the free masterclass that I'm offering. You go in and out of that where you're like, yeah, this is great. I just want to shout from the rooftops and make sure everybody knows about it, to, oh shit, that means they're going to listen to me, or they're going to read my book or listen to my book. And oh shit, that means they're going to have their own thoughts and opinions about that may not be, the most well received in my mind. Or even when it's the opposite, there's vulnerability in receiving, really good feedback from other people. So essentially, the vulnerability hangover is just when you feel vulnerable, when you feel exposed. And what happens next is, insecurities galore, right? All of your biggest, deepest, darkest fears and insecurities get triggered and come to the forefront, and come in the form of sometimes ridiculous thoughts and the what ifs and all that jazz. There's fear of what others think. Like I said, how did they receive you? Oftentimes, a vulnerability hangover puts you in the position of fearing the worst and assuming the worst. You're all of a sudden only thinking that they're thinking the worst things about what you said or what you did or how you shared a big part of yourself. There's doubt. You second guess. Should I have said it that way? Did I say it that right? Did I even have the right to say it? Oh my gosh, what if I caused more harm than good by expressing how I felt or what I think? You do a lot of that self-doubt, second guessing. You feel exposed, you feel unsafe. Your nervous system goes for a ride, guys, right? The nervous system is really what produces, it's on the fritz. It's like, oh shit, I stepped out of my safety zone, my little, safe corner of the world. And I don't know how to come back from that. So all sorts of, things like fast heartbeat, sweaty palms, just feeling really uncomfortable, maybe a stomach ache, all sorts of physical symptoms can come with a vulnerability hangover. There's the negative self-talk, getting down on yourself, the self-condemnation. Oh, you shouldn't have done that. What were you thinking? Why do you even bother? Nobody cares what you have to say. There's wanting to just plain hide and I've been known to just throw a blanket over my head and not answer texts or emails or phone calls whenever I've been in a vulnerability hangover. And then there's that temptation to backtrack, to take what you said back, to remove your post from Facebook or erase whatever you put out there on the internet so that there's no trace or no evidence of it, or if you've spoken your truth to somebody, expressed your feelings or your thoughts on a matter, and you're super terrified of how it's received or how it's made you look and what they think, you'll gloss over and say, oh, you know what, I didn't actually mean that, or I'm so sorry I said that, I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable, or even just like pretend it never happened, right? We've all done that to some degree or another. So these are some of the things that happen when we experience that vulnerability hangover. And one thing I want to make clear, though, as I speak to this matter, is vulnerability at its core, at its essence, is a strength. It's an expanding energy, not a contracting energy. It can't help but make you bigger, make you more, and give you the opportunity to release some of those things that are naturally coming into the space as a result of putting yourself out there. Those insecurities and fears come up. Well, great. Fear is information. You get to look at it and you get to decide what you want to do with it. You get to allow it to either destroy you or temporarily. I don't know that it ever will, continue destroy you forever, but or empower you to say, you know what? There are going to be some haters. There are going to be people who think that I'm an idiot for doing this, or that I'm self-involved or whatever. I don't care. I can't be responsible for all of that. And all of a sudden you've moved, you've stretched, you've grown, you've expanded yourself, you've stepped into a more authentic version of yourself. Vulnerability and the willingness to be vulnerable when you know damn well you're going to have a vulnerability hangover, but you do it anyway, that is strength. That is power. That is a form of alignment. So I want to share some tips with you, though, because even though it's all of those things and more, it's freaking hard and it's uncomfortable. And sometimes it's like so uncomfortable you want to crawl out of your skin. So I have some strategies that I have observed and experienced myself. I've practiced them. I've, given them to my clients, and these things seem to universally help. I'm going to give you quite a few of them, 6 or 7 of them, because it's not a one size fits all, not for each person, but also not for each scenario. One might work in this moment, but an hour from now it doesn't. Or this time you put yourself out there in some scary way, but not the next time. So I'm going to give you a few to work with here. The first is, and this is more proactive than anything, anytime that you're planning on putting yourself out there, sometimes it happens organically and it's like you didn't think about it. So whatever happens, great. But I'm speaking to the times where you're like, okay, I'm going to do a promotion, or I'm going to have that conversation with this person and let them know how I truly feel. Make sure you're coming from a place of alignment when you do. In other words, line your energy up first. Get into that high vibrating state where you can more easily speak from that place of authenticity and access your truth, access the words you truly want to convey. Whether that looks like doing jumping jacks before you do so, because physical movement will raise your vibration and get you into that higher state of alignment, or focusing on gratitudes, positive aspects, meditating, go outside in nature first. Do whatever you can do to feel good so that you're clear, calm, and you are centered in the truth you're about to speak or share. Why? Because then, you'll be able to express yourself better, right? But more than that, perhaps, is that you can trust yourself. You can save yourself when you do the part in the vulnerability hangover that says, doubt myself, be tempted to backtrack, save face, second guess myself. You don't have to do that. Why? Because when you do anything from a state of alignment, everything that happens next is supposed to happen. You can trust it. So you can trust yourself and you can trust what happens next. Get into alignment first. The second tip is to understand that a vulnerability hangover is a likelihood, if not a certainty, when you put yourself out there in a big way, when you stretch yourself in this way, when you allow yourself to be seen, and just simply make space for it. So to use my example, anytime that I'm doing a launch of some sort, like with the book and the masterclass, I know that there's a high likelihood that either the next day or maybe a couple days later or 5 minutes later, I'm going to feel vulnerable. So I'm just going to decide to make space for it and that, expect that it's going to happen. That takes the edge off. That takes the sting off. And it positions me to be very empowered and proactive and loving with myself, and to do some of the following tips, which are to be gentle with yourself. If you know it's coming, decide ahead of time to be nice to yourself, be encouraging. Acknowledge the shit out of yourself for the things that you did well and that took bravery and strength and courage. Acknowledge yourself for doing it knowing you were going to feel this way, and be gentle with yourself as you feel what you feel. Lean on your people, right? Know who your supporters are and lean on them, friends, family members, partners, pets, and, not just the people, but your creature comforts. So, if you're going to make space for the vulnerability hangover, heck, figure out which Netflix series you're going to binge. Get your favorite cozy blanket out. Make sure you have your favorite tea. Get a venti latte instead of a tall at Starbucks or whatever. Lean into that to help soothe yourself for this very temporary feeling. So that's the other thing. A vulnerability hangover is temporary. It's not going to last forever. And in that vein, you can distract yourself. Plan not to think about it. So as soon as I announced the release of my audiobook and the invitation for the free masterclass, I shut my computer down. I got off of social media and I made sure I was outside with my family. We played softball in the backyard. We went for a walk. I played the stupid fidget toy, what do they call it? Fidget exchange. I don't know. If you have young kids around like 7 years old, you know what I'm talking about. It's just the weirdest thing. But I just dove into that and I was present with my family. I distracted the heck out of myself. You can go for a walk. You can, plan a girls' night out or whatever. Just schedule it in. Also, make the space to be with the emotions that do come up, like I said a moment ago, because what you feel, what gets triggered is information. It's showing you what is ripe and ready to heal as you are expanding. There's a reason you put yourself out there that way, whether it was in a planned way or just an organic way, it happened. So it's because life is always working for you. It's for your highest good. It's for your growth. So be with what comes up. You don't have to transform it. You don't have to slap a positivity Band-Aid on it. If that looks like you crying because you're terrified that people are going to think you're an idiot, cry, be with it, and be loving with yourself the way you would a child if, they were experiencing something similar. You don't try to talk them out of it. You just give them a hug. So journal and be with what comes up so it can heal and be released. And then finally, once you've done all of that, or maybe simultaneously you do this, I don't know, you can use your own discernment for what you need and when, but focus on the good. Focus on the support and the encouragement and the validation and the acknowledgement that you did receive. Focus on your bravery. Focus on the yeses, the people who said, heck yes, I want to buy your book and take your classes, and ignore the no's. It's really hard to ignore the no's I mean, a lot of times you don't even know that who they are and if they exist or whatever, but ignore the thoughts about the no's and take care of your yeses. Put like blow up and milk the good parts, the good things that come out of it. Because you know our human tendency is to receive 100 compliments and focus on the one that was a critique, right? So don't do that. Decide ahead of time that you're going to focus on and take care of and expand in the good aspects. So those are some tips to move through a vulnerability hangover. Know that vulnerability is a strength, not a weakness, and it's just a part of the human experience because it is expansive. It grows us. It helps us to access a greater level of authenticity, and authenticity is pure magic. It's pure brilliance. It allows you to become and create more of who you are and what you want. So just learning how to deal with it is probably a really good thing to do. I'm doing it too. Speaking of which, let me do my shameless self plug and self promotion here, but with the awareness that it's for, the greater good. Audiobook is available on Amazon, Awaken Aligned, How to Navigate the Human Experience as a Spiritual Being. And I'm offering a free masterclass on August 19th at 1 p.m. Central. I'll drop a link for those things to make it really nice and easy for you. But I'm going to cover the 4 keys to living a life of alignment. Like dealing with a vulnerability hangover is probably one of those more, it would fall under one of the keys I'm going to cover, right? It's like a sub experience that you might have, but there are 4 elements to this process that I call spiritual alignment or vibrational alignment, which is really just becoming more of who you are in all aspects of life, taking your spiritual self, your conscious self, and your human self and blending them, merging them, and living from this aligned place versus having the 2 argue or this one saying this one needs to go away. That's dumb. We're human for a reason. Let's embrace it. And I'm going to show you how in this class. So make sure you sign up for that. And I hope this helps. I'd love to hear how it lands. Have a great day, guys. Thanks for joining me.